Join us in praying for one of these 5 dream Super Bowl matchups.
We got Detroit and Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and if there can only be one champion, and it will be... the Lions!
With the NFL postseason approaching, 5 dream matchups that we all want for Super Bowl 59, and 5 that we don't want whatsoever. Want? Detroit Lions versus Kansas City Chiefs. Alright, may as well get the obvious one out of the way early, yeah. The Chiefs have been the best team in the AFC all season long, becoming the first club to win at least 15 regular season games since the 2015 Carolina Panthers. Love or hate the Chiefs, there is no denying that any Super Bowl game would be more entertaining with them in it. The Lions, at least until injuries started mounting on the defensive side of the ball, were unquestionably the best team in the NFC during the regular season. And sometimes the best possible matchup is the one involving the 2 number 1 seeds. We still can't get over the thrill of the 2023 NFL kickoff game between these 2 teams at Arrowhead, with Dan Campbell's squad stunning the defending champions en route to the franchise's best season in the Super Bowl era. Even if Detroit's defense is banged up and vulnerable coming into the Super Bowl, it doesn't mean a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl would suck by any means. If anything, it would just mean an epic back-and-forth thriller between the 2 NFL juggernauts. Don't want? Los Angeles Chargers versus Los Angeles Rams. If you've watched an NFL game at SoFi Stadium, you've probably noticed that the Rams and Chargers haven't exactly attracted an overwhelming amount of fans. It feels like almost every Rams or Bolts home game is filled up with fans by the opposing team. So, does Los Angeles really deserve an all-LA Super Bowl? The Rams already won their Lombardi Trophy 3 years ago. The Lakers are just 4 seasons removed from an NBA championship, and the Dodgers just held a World Series parade a couple of months ago. We're also really struggling to see the appeal of this actual matchup. The Rams and Chargers are rush-heavy offenses with stingy defenses that control games in the trenches. It just kind of feels like you're asking for a 17-13 or 14-10 final score at some point. I don't know about you, but I think I'll pass. Want? Buffalo Bills versus Minnesota Vikings. Remember when the Chicago Cubs and Cleveland met in the 2016 World Series? The 2 teams with the longest active World Series championship droughts at the time, so something had to give. So picture this, the Bills against the Vikings, 2 snake-bitten franchises that are both 0-4 all time in the Super Bowl. And think about how jinxed these 2 teams have been in big games. The Bills, wide right and wide right too. For the Vikings, Gary Anderson's missed kick, Brett Favre's costly interception in 2009, Blair Walsh's missed gimme against the Seattle Seahawks. We could also focus on the back-and-forth thrill and defensive firepower. Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones versus Josh Allen, James Cook, Khalil Shakir, and Amari Cooper has a lot of juice on paper. Not to mention, both teams field championship-level defenses. But we're convinced that this game would end like the 2016 World Series. Who would choke the least? Would it come down to a missed field goal, a careless Darnold or Allen giveaway, a fumble near the goal line? Plus, any fan would be thrilled to see the long-suffering Vikings or Bills fan bases finally get to celebrate a Super Bowl trophy. Don't want? Philadelphia Eagles versus Pittsburgh Steelers. This matchup would have been juicy a month ago, but the Eagles' 27-13 shellacking of the Steelers at Lincoln Financial Field has us all crossing our fingers and hoping that this Super Bowl 59 matchup doesn't happen. The Saquon Barkley-led Eagles have been a force all season long. The superstar running back and Vic Fangio's lights-out defense have been so dominant that it's easy to forget that Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith also exist on this team. The Steelers were a pleasant surprise early on, jumping out to a 10-3 start that had Mike Tomlin in the conversation for Coach of the Year. But the Steelers inexplicably unraveled in the final stretch, getting entirely outclassed by the Eagles, Baltimore Ravens, and Chiefs in 3 straight blowout losses. So if the Steelers somehow fluked their way to a Super Bowl appearance, and if they met the Eagles, I don't know. This just kind of has blowout written all over it. Want? Baltimore Ravens versus Green Bay Packers. Is this the year that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens finally break through with a trip to Super Bowl 59? With Derrick Henry aboard, this might be Jackson's best opportunity to win it all. Meanwhile, it feels like everyone is sleeping on Jordan Love and the Packers this year. But hey, such is life when you're only the 3rd best team in the NFC North, featuring arguably the conference's top 2 teams in the Vikings and Lions. But we're warning you now, don't sleep on the Packers. They have actually fared much better on the road this year. This is a team that crushed a second-seeded Dallas Cowboys team at AT&T Stadium in last year's postseason before nearly shocking the top-seeded San Francisco 49ers in the divisional divisional round. The Ravens defense has underachieved this year, but we love the idea of their deep secondary, namely Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, and Marcus Williams going up against a Packers pass-catching core of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Tucker Kraft. New Packers offensive weapon Josh Jacobs has taken this offense to a whole nother level. But how would he fare against the league's best run defense? How would Jeff Hafley's stingy D account for Lamar, Henry, Mark Andrews, and Zay Flowers? There's so many fun little chess matches to think about here. Does Jackson finally win it all, or does Love stick it to Aaron Rodgers by leading the pack to a title in the same year where his career sunk with the Jets? Please, give us this matchup. Don't want Houston Texans versus Washington Commanders. Make no mistake, the odds of this happening are extremely low. It doesn't at all mean that we want this to be the Super Bowl matchup, though. It's just really hard to think of anything that appeals about this matchup. I mean, the Texans have been in shambles ever since Stephon Diggs suffered a season-ending ACL tear mid-season, and Tank Dell's gruesome dislocated kneecap in Week 17 put this team in a further bind. The Commanders have been a feel-good story in 2024 under rookie QB Jane Daniels and new head coach Dan Quinn. Finally, football is fun again in DC with the disastrous Dan Snyder era long gone. Most folks hopefully wouldn't complain about the Commanders being in the Super Bowl, but it just feels like it'd either be a blowout in Washington's favor or a low-scoring affair filled with punts, sacks, and turnovers. With all due respect to the Texans and Commanders, they're also not exactly the most beloved or nationally followed teams outside of their respective locations. So it'd be awfully difficult to get psyched about a Texans-Commanders Super Bowl should the two teams pull off the miraculous underdog runs in January. Want Baltimore Ravens versus Philadelphia Eagles. Some may wonder why we have this on the list given how disappointing their Week 13 matchup was. Well, Saquon Barkley's Eagles came into Baltimore and dominated the Ravens 24-19 in a game that wasn't at all close as the final score indicates. In fact, it was an uncharacteristically sloppy game for Lamar Jackson and company. But we're convinced that a rematch would be much better. Don't forget, both teams were missing key players, including Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, Marcus Williams, and Kyle Van Noy. Barkley and Henry have been the two best running backs in football this year. Jackson and Hurts are the league's best rushing QBs. And they both have game-changing pass catchers at their disposal. And that's to say nothing of the star-studded secondaries that each of them boast. But really, it's the Henry and Jackson versus the Barkley and Hurts storyline that we really can't get over. Add everything up, and a Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl 59 dance in New Orleans has the makings to be an all-time classic. Don't want Kansas City Chiefs versus Minnesota Vikings. On first thought, who wouldn't want to see these two juggernauts face off? They've both been at the top of the standings throughout the year thanks to the top 10 defenses and offensive machines loaded with playmakers across the board. But I don't know, it just feels like this game has blowout written all over it. Sam Darnold has enjoyed a career year, but he hasn't exactly played his best against elite competitions. Turnovers remain an issue, and we can just see him totally imploding against the league's best and most battle-tested defenses on the grand stage. Even Minnesota's rock-solid defense has been exposed against top-flight offenses. You think they have the personnel to shut down Patrick Mahomes and all his weapons? 35-year-old Harrison Smith and 34-year-old Stephon Gilmore are not shutting down Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown at all, folks. We can see Kansas City just easily winning by double digits here, and I don't think anybody wants to be seeing that. Want Buffalo Bills versus Detroit Lions. To us, the Bills, Lions, Vikings, and Cleveland Browns are in Tier 1 of snake-bitten NFL franchises whose fan bases have suffered the most heartbreak. So, like our previous talk about a Bills-Vikings Super Bowl, imagine if Buffalo and Detroit square off in a Super Bowl showdown featuring two jinxed franchises. Oh, and did we mention their Week 15 matchup? You know, where the Bills won 48-42 in a game that featured 1,080 yards of offense, teams going a combined 4 for 4 on fourth downs with only one total takeaway? It would be hard not to shed a tear for Bills Mafia or Lions Pride, whichever team emerged victorious here. But as we saw in their regular season clash, a Buffalo-Detroit matchup would be filled with offensive fireworks and very few defensive stops. And I mean, come on, isn't that what every fan dreams of? Sign us up for part 2 from Week 15. Don't want Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we know the Chiefs and Eagles are two of the most star-studded and well-rounded teams in all of football right now. But come on, does anyone really care to see the same Super Bowl matchup for the second time in 3 years? Yeah, whatever. The matchup 2 years ago was an all-time thriller until the officials ruined the fun with a tacky defensive holding call football against James Bradbury on Juju Smith-Schuster. But come on, if you hate the Kansas City Chiefs, you'll probably hate the Philadelphia Eagles too. They're currently two of football's most obnoxious fan bases, and they are filled with bandwagoners. Remember how everyone used to love or hate the New England Patriots, which remains the case for the Dallas Cowboys? Nobody wanted that Super Bowl because it meant one of football's most despised teams was guaranteed to win. Well, it's the same deal here, folks. But hey, which other Super Bowl 59 matchups are you hoping to see? What matchups are you hoping we avoid? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.